Sector Connector, we're back. I don't know why the siren was coming out, but that's it. We are fired up today, man. I gotta be honest. Sometimes, they say, when you sometimes you gotta play hurt, man. And I've been fighting the cold for like a month, and I'm fighting it and I'm fighting it, and I'm still battling through. But you know what, man? My voice is still here. Although at 6:30 this morning when I rose, it was not here. It was struggling. It was having a tough time. Every week I do this show. It's called Philanthropy and Focus, and every day I play a character. Well, the character I play is called Tommy D, but I also play a character called the Nonprofit Sector Connector. Extra long pause. Well done, kid. Extra long pause today. Listen, I'm fired up because I've said on the show recently, I fancy myself a bit of a showman. And I think today to talk about showman is a great thing because my friend Phil Capadora is here from Astoria Filmmakers Club. Before I go on my whole rant, Phil, let me say good morning. What's up, brother? How are you?
Hey, Tommy D. Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so fired up to have you here, man. I looked on LinkedIn. I have it pulled up on one of my screens, and it says Philip parentheses Capadora Jr. So I might call you Cap throughout the day if that's all right with you, sir.
Absolutely, of course.
All right. Well done. So here's the thing. Why I'm fired up? Well, because this is a great opportunity. Some people say I got to do this, or I got to do that, or I got to do this. No. We got to say I get to. And I was coming up the stairs and I was talking to my wife right up on the way to the studio here. And I said, you know what? I get to go do my show. I get to do this every single Friday morning. Think about that. Think about that and reflect on it. Look at the world and say, I get to. Not I got to, but I have the opportunity to. I'll leave that there for a second because I want to shout out PT Barnum, because Tuesday night I was at an event for transitional services for New York, TSINY, which is one of my very favorite nonprofit organizations, which is like saying I have a favorite child, which on certain days I do. But without publicity, a terrible thing happens. Nothing. Without publicity, a terrible thing happens. Nothing. So I think any publicity, and it is also one of his things, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. But I often have been known to say there's no such thing as bad publicity as well. And what I try to do on this show is give nonprofit organizations the opportunity to tell their story. And then I try the best I can to help them amplify their message. So back to TSINY, it was a big top event. It was a circus event. Dr. Larry Grubler from TSINY was dressed up like the ringleader. And they had these big old buckets of popcorn. Anyway, check in with me, Tommy D, down in NYC on Instagram. I'm posting some of those pictures later today, so you'll see what that was all about. But it is about publicity. It's about relationships. It's about connections. And that's what a nonprofit sector connector is all about. We're like 140 episodes into something that was an idea. It was just a figment of my imagination. And I went around and told people I was going to do it for 2 years before I started doing it. And I would challenge you, if there's something out there that you're talking about doing, just freaking do the thing. I say this a lot here on the show. Just do it. It might not be, it probably won't be, it isn't going to be what you expected it to be, but it's something, it's done, it's out there. Now you can nip and tuck and figure out what the next move is. That's why I'm fired up to talk to Phil today, because I have all these ideas. And he's got a whole bunch of filmmakers. And I think I might be an actor. I think I might be a singer. I think I might be all these things. And hanging out with really cool, creative people is going to give me that opportunity and platform to test out some of these things. And I will tell you this. There's a song I was listening to yesterday afternoon in the car by one of my favorite groups. The group is called Revolution. And the song is called Courage to Grow. And it talks about stepping out of your comfort zone and reaching out and doing the thing. And that's what I'm about, man. And I will shout this out, Derek Rachmani and the boys in Revolution. I want you to write a song for one of my shows. So that's now out there in the universe. These guys are a big band, but I'm like, let's work something out where maybe they can write a song for the Tommy D show, where I take the nonprofit road show soon to come. And Phil and I know we will talk about that today. But Namaste in the attic. All right, let's do this, Phil. Let's do this, Cap. Yes, I dig it, man. Namaste, brother. You got to get your meditation in, gang. Even when you're a fired up wild bit, you got to get it in, because there's so much importance to go inside. I'm not going to preach on that right now. Phil, I met you through the Queen's Chamber of Commerce. I remember we were hanging out at Citi Field that day when they had the big trade show. Saw you just again 2 weeks ago at a Queen's Chamber event. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, maybe not all things, but most things run through Queens. Shout out my favorite borough, top borough in all top in the top 5 boroughs. It's definitely number one. So, so Phil, I met you. We start talking, and I'm at those events. I got like a pink linen suit on, trying to be flashy, trying to make friends, the whole thing. Came over to the table. You said I do a podcast. I said I do, all this kind of back and forth. And I'm interested in the genesis of this organization. Astoria Filmmakers Club is a nonprofit organization. Now, some of the nonprofits I spend time with are helping people get clothing or diapers, or feeding people who are food insecure, or housing people who are experiencing homelessness, right? But then there's the arts and the education space and all this, the museums and things like that. I want to hear about your organization, and I want to hear about why does this organization exist? So let's just jump in. So let's talk about you, your background as actor, filmmaker, the whole thing, and then tell me about the organization, man.
Okay, sure. It goes back now. Almost 5 years ago, I came up with the idea for it. And it really came down to just while living in Astoria, learning that everybody in the film industry, the Broadway community, you name it, they lived in Astoria, and it has a nickname called Actoria.
Is that right?
I thought that was kind of cool because I just was couch surfing at the time, didn't know diddly squat about the neighborhood. I was just, reconnected with some college friends, and I had a place to live. And during that time, from 2014 to mid 2000, all the way up to 2016, easily, my survival job was background acting. Did a little pizza delivery. Couldn't really get like a decent job anywhere else. But during that time, I lost count how many different film sets, but it was so far and in between. Getting like maybe a small role through Backstage or Actors Access, or even it's been a minute since I even been a lead in anything. I wanted to really figure out what could I do to actually have a career doing this. So when I found out that everybody in the neighborhood, for the most part, are actors and people in the industry, I just like put it out on Facebook saying, hey, I'm thinking of starting a networking group for filmmakers. Would anybody be interested in doing that? And it got a pretty strong response. Had over 60 comments saying we would love to be a part of something like that. And nobody took the initiative to actually like say, okay, meet us on this date. So I did. Okay. So all of a sudden it's like August of 2019. And every single Wednesday for several months, we were just drinking beer, having dinner together, shaking hands. We had over 100 people come before New Year's of that year. And the idea of really working together and actually doing something together as a group, a nonprofit, was proposed. And I thought that was the best thing for a group to actually get behind. Because everybody has, for the most part, their own production company or independent film company. So I thought a nonprofit, if it actually belonged to the community, was the best thing we could do together as a group. So what we ended up doing, we incorporated on February 11th of 2020. And a month later, we got punched in the face with the pandemic.
February 11th. It's actually one of my son's birthdays. So that's funny, but wow. I felt when you were saying 2019 that we were going to lead up to this story where eventually we were going to get hit in the face with a pandemic. And that's because hindsight's 2020. So I knew where we were going there. So you're this group, you get together, you have beers, you have dinner together, you're networking, and then the world goes screech, stop, halt, right? And I know it as a guy who was literally out. I'm sort of back in my element, out 3-4 nights a week in the networking world. However, when that all happened, I remember the day. It was the March 11th. In fact, it was a Wednesday, and it was the Queens Chamber of Commerce had their St. Patrick's Day party, and then I met Tom Gretchen, Brendan Levy, my business partner Ed Probst, at the burger place in the bar in Bayside, Queens. And I can't, the name's escaping me right now, but they got like the best burger in town, they always say. And then the next day was the Thursday, and the next day obviously is Friday the 13th, when the world out was like kind of it, man. So you got this new organization, a lot of firepower, people are excited, and up until that point, I guess you're doing everything in person, right?
Yeah, that it was a major shift.
Yeah. like an industry that is used to doing everything in person too, right? I mean, that whole thing shut, right? Broadway shut down. All these things were everything. We all know this looking back, you know, that it was all a shutdown. So what do you do then?
Well, just to kind of maintain and keep the group together, we had a podcast for the first couple seasons for the first year where we would actually reconnect with everybody we connected from those previous months, and maybe just take an hour, have a podcast, and why don't we have a little bit more of a deep dive about these people, their passion, their favorite movie, and do something episodically like that on a weekly basis. So that kind of carried us through. What else did we do? It really gave me enough time to just finish all the legal paperwork, because we were able to get our 501c3 in September of 2020. Right. And that process actually happened relatively, quickly compared to most. Yeah. And we would have mixers and meetings on Zoom instead. And we were able to do some things while everybody was trying to survive, go back home. A lot of people left New York City around that time. So during that time, it was really just like a be patient moment where we're like, okay, we still have the passion, we have the drive, we know the tool in the short and long term is useful. So what can we do right now? Just climb and maintain. Yeah. As Tyler Perry would say.
So I want to understand, so we're going to take a break in a second here, but and then we'll come back and do this when you come back. I want to understand, like, from when you help us see this through your eyes, through your lens, what is the mission of the organization? What is the expectation? What do you see? You project. I try to project. Brian Tracy has this thing, 21 Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires, and he talks from the kind of back to the future thinking and project in your mind's eye 5 years into the future and sort of look back and like, what are we creating? And I think that's a great way to visualize for sure. So I want to see that through your eyes and through your board's eyes and things like that. What can this be? And then we're going to talk about what it is right now in the programs and things like that. How's that sound?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, good. All right. So let's do that now. We'll go to a quick break. So when we come back, we could be right into the story and go where we're going. All right. Cap and Tommy D in the attic. What's up, gang? We'll be right back.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Bronco, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
You didn't know that was coming, did you?
No. So wait, Brendan, Mr. Levi, he wrote that?
Uncle Brendan. I call him Uncle Brendan. Brendan Levy, Queens Chamber of Commerce. They have a band. So he has a band, right? It used to be called The Goods. And as older men, they call themselves Damaged Goods. They're actually playing in a couple weeks. I saw he's playing. They're doing a show on October 14th. So he and I said, dude, I want to have a song for my show, and kind of like a jingle and something attic, and there's got to be the word attic in it and this whole thing. And so over the years, since I've been doing the show, I always say we wrote it together, because I think we really did. Like we kind of lyrics and lyrics by Tommy and Brendan, music and singing by Brendan. Although, I did say at an event earlier this year that this was going to be the year when I was going to learn to sing. So maybe I've been saying it. And, I only said that I need to learn to sing because other people say I don't do it all that well. Nonprofits need connections to move in right directions. It could be where my ears are placed on my head, but that sounded pretty good to me anyway. So what do you think?
It's very poetic, and it's got a nice sound.
It is nice. I love the song, and yes, Brendan did that. But I'm thinking, and this is why I kind of sent out that note, that little love note to Revolution at the beginning of the show. I feel like, and I've been looking online trying to figure out how to make a reggae beat myself, because I think it needs, it's kind of my vibe, man. It's kind of where my frequency is in that reggae world with love and compassion and all that. And I want to write a bunch of songs. So we'll leave that there for now, because this is about you and your organization. But maybe there's people listening from your organization that are like, wow, that Tommy D, he's got character. He's got charisma. Maybe we should put him in a movie somewhere. Yes, I would like to be in your movies, everybody. I'd love to play. I'd love to do that. I used to, it's funny you said Backpage. Like I used to look at years ago, and I actually have an interesting, I think this will segue into Fireland, which is something I actually have it over there. There's an envelope. I used to send out headshots, right? And I was like for college films and stuff like that back in my 24 years ago, like I was 21, 22, 23. I sent out one of these. I used to send them out in these yellow envelopes. I'll show you one in a sec, Phil, because the funny thing, or the interesting thing about it is this letter was sent out and it had the wrong address. It had like a little resume and it had a photo in it, and it was sent back to me on September 11th, 2001. And I'm going to grab it when we go to break, because I see it on the other side of the attic, and it's still in the envelope. It was like return to sender, wrong address kind of thing. And it came back to me. And for some reason, I think it's poetic to hold on to it, and it's cool. But I used to do that, man. I wanted to be in the college films, and they used to say, I did a couple things. It was a movie. It was like extra-ish, because it was like I wasn't in a scene. I was in the audience in a movie called Monday Night. It was called Monday Night Mayhem. It was about Howard Cosell, and it was like a Howard Cosell like made for TV movie. And I was seated in the audience with like 300 people, and I think I made $75 for 18 hours of work or something. 18 hours of sitting in an audience is really what it was. Anyway, that kind of stuff. It's fun. I had to call the guys. I was a bartender at the time in my uncle's bar. We'll probably talk about my Uncle Joe related to Fireland, but I was a bartender. I had to call these guys and go, I know my shift starts at 7:00 p.m., but I've been in the city all day. I'm not going to make it. So somebody's gonna have to 10 bar so I can make this $75 sitting in the audience at this Howard Cosell movie. But like that's a lot of what guys and gals do, right? When they're coming up, trying to do that, trying to get access, get opportunities, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's no better way than to actually gain experience on how to actually develop a career in film and TV, other than being on set, whether they're filming a film or TV. There's no better way to learn.
You got to be there. Yeah. Like I was talking to, so it's just funny how the world works, man. Guys, listen up for a second. You never know where or how you're going to meet somebody. So there's a young man in my neighborhood. He works at the gas station in my neighborhood. And because I'm friendly and I want to talk to everybody, I've started to talk to him over the last 6 or 8 months. Maybe it's a year by now. He's in film school. I saw him on Saturday morning. He actually hooked me up with a guy who's going to be doing videography for this new idea I have, Tommy D's road show with the nonprofits, right? And he hooked me up with another young man. They're both in film school up at City College. But he was telling me we talked on, I had to get a tire fixed, and he's telling me about how the grip, is that the guy with the lights? Or who's the guy with the?
Yeah, the grip actually, you're thinking of a gaffer, I believe, for the leg.
Yeah, he was telling me like why those guys or how artistic the work is from a lighting perspective, and how many times they have to move the lighting throughout the day and stuff like that. And that itself is a specialty. And I think, we often, because I guess the way it is, we see the Hollywood stars, and like that's who gets a lot of the quote unquote credit, or that's who we notice. But there's so many people behind the scenes doing the very, very important work on the production side, right?
Of course. I mean, like if you ever actually stay for the credits,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It takes like 10 minutes to get through all of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I remember being a kid, like in like 7th or 8th grade, and I had this we had this English teacher, and she said that she had like a son or daughter of one of her very close friends was in production work. And she promised that she would always watch the credits all the way through going forward, because we don't always do that. But there's hundreds and thousands of people involved with all these different projects. It's not just, James Cameron and Matt Damon. There's a whole bunch of other people that did some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a credit that I wish I got, but it was a freak accident altogether. I guess we could talk about it for just a moment, because when you mentioned that you never know what's going to happen, the truth is you truly don't, because I was given a great opportunity because I was in the right place at the right time. In this actually happened in September of 2016.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a quick story. So for years prior, I've been on dozens, maybe over 100. I'll just say, I guess, generously, let's just say 100 film sets at that point in time. It's probably true. All over New York City, even went down to Georgia, got to be on the Divergent series, Insurgent series, got to go on the Hunger Game.
Really?
Just to kind of like, I needed a job, and that's where they were filming. So I got in my car and I drove all the way down to Georgia, and what a ride that was. But no, for a full week, got to stay down in Georgia, and I got to just meet Woody Harrelson, and like, dude, he's the coolest guy in the world.
See, let me ask you that. I don't want to lose your story, but he seems like the coolest dude. Like you just want to hang out and chill, and like he's not like pretentious. He's just like a regular dude, even in like.
No, he's more than a regular dude. He's actually fun. Like between takes, just to keep himself. Like there was this one character in Hunger Games who ended up in a wheelchair. He was the genius guy. So during, like, in between takes, the guy was just stretching his legs, but then Woody would jump on his wheelchair and he would start popping wheelies and just start getting the crowd all stirred up. Just little things like that. Donald Sutherland was just kind of like shaking his head saying, these kids.
I'll tell you, and you know who, oh God, was it not William H. Macy, who passed, who was so great in that movie, who I love the actor.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. I knew there was the 3 names. Oh my God, what a great actor. And I talk a lot about mental health issues and substance abuse and challenges and things like that. And gang, reach out to people. I didn't know I was going to bring this up right now, but reach out to people, connect with people. The biggest thing for at least in my world, and as my understanding is, the biggest antidote for depression and for substance abuse is connection and relationships and people. Please check in on each other. Please love each other. Please hug each other. All right, we'll put away the love and compassion for a second here. But like Phil, that's so Philip Seymour Hoffman, Woody Harrelson. My daughter says I gotta look up his name, but he's the in that movie. I love the Hunger Games, but the TV host, when they do his name is like Flickstein or whatever. I
didn't read the books, and I kind of just watched the movies just to watch them over there, but I didn't really become a huge fan of the.
I love those movies. I think they're really, really. Caesar Flickerman. He's this zany character. He, girl on fire, and he does all this kind of stuff when he's interviewing Katniss or whatever. My daughter gives me a hard time. She says I act like him a little bit because, it's like he's like zany and wacky and over the top. And maybe she's right, Caesar Flickerman. So if you're ever going to do like a play of the Hunger Games, anybody out there, Story Filmmakers Club, maybe I could play, or I'll read for the role of Caesar Flickerman, guys. All right.
We'll get back to you on that.
We'll have to talk about that one. All right. Okay. So you're down there at the Hunger Games, the whole thing. You're on set. Woody Harrelson. Where we were going somewhere else with that one too.
Well, I mean, just to kind of it brings us into the story I wanted to tell you, because when you're really committed to this, like the job opportunities are gonna be presented to you somehow, but it's up to you to really just go and be a part of it. Because I could have stayed in pizza delivery, I could have stayed at catering, bartending. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you want to survive and really do something in the arts. You have to have a survival job. I get it, but it's more important that you don't deprive yourself of the opportunity to actually go and experience and learn while you're on set, because it led to what actually happened in 2016, a couple of years later. So during all that time, I'm shaking hands, I'm networking, I'm meeting so many people like just like us, who are just, starting out, just got out of school, or they have a retirement job, but they got an imagination, they want to do some real work and maybe create their own. So what ended up happening in March of 2016, somebody recommended that I give Actors Access a try. And again, it's just like another subscription to try to get work.
Yeah, what is it? Tell us what that is. Some of us who are not in the work.
Well, Actors Access basically is a platform where you could audition for roles, and you subscribe for like $60 for a full year, unlimited, and you could apply to any audition that presents itself from an independent studio that are looking for actors. So day one, somebody was just looking for an undercover cop for a social services gig. And I'm like, all right, first one, I'm a cop and everything else, why not? So I click it, I submit, and I get the gig. So what they wanted, go down to Brooklyn, come in, you're here for a day. All right, no problem. Wardrobe, no problem. So I'm there for like maybe not even an hour, and then coming in from the main hallway, coming into the holding is none other than the guy from Twilight, Robert Pattinson. And I'm just looking, and I'm like, that's the guy from Twilight? And I'm like, all right, cool. All right, it's gonna be a fun day. So what ended up happening in that scene, it was this big arrest. It was the climax of the movie. It was the last like real scene, dummy gets thrown off a building and falls. Shout out to Buddy Duress, who played that character. He's an Astoria native. But that was pretty much it. But I got to meet Greg O'Neill, guy who played Poet in Oz, and I got to drive him home. And he and I had like a real heart-to-heart conversation, and just we spoke like two human beings. It was awesome. So what ended up happening a few months later, I just got back from my honeymoon, and that same organization, they said, we got to do a reshoot of that scene. And I'm like, and I'm 30 pounds heavier after my honeymoon for this. And I'm like, it's not a big deal, I'm just an actor. But what happened was, the guy who made the arrest, the original stunt guy, he was unavailable that day. And the director, Benny Safdie of the Safdie brothers, he looks at me and just says, but what about Phil? At first, I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm like, what about me? So basically, they put me in his costume, and now I look like I'm the guy who arrested Robert Pattinson in the feature film.
Kidding.
Yeah, and now I'm on the movie poster next to Robert Pattinson making the arrest in the feature film Good Time.
Come on, man. No kidding.
No, I'm not kidding you at all. And that to what you were saying before is that you don't know what's actually going to happen. You really don't. Yeah. And although it was just like, just another day at work, you're a background actor. It's not what you really thought you signed up for. I got 4 years of, college where I really studied this. But at the same time, I get it. If people out there are really frustrated where you're not really getting that shot or that opportunity, it doesn't mean you're not going to, but you got to, honestly, I think it's sort of like a test of your faith on whether or not you really want to do this. Because you could actually, become a movie star or whatever tomorrow, but then the second day, the third day, can you sustain that? So there's a foundation work on how committed you are that I've learned on being a part of the process and really appreciating the work that it is that we do to do this long term. Because I wouldn't say that was my big break where I became like a well-known actor or anything like that, because nothing really came of that. It was validating for me to just see myself on the screen. And my friends from college at the neighborhood playhouse, shout out, they all saw the movie and they're like, that's Phil, he made it. I'm like, not really, but so things like that, but long term, I'm still on the movie poster. Maybe somebody one day will be like, who was that guy?
Yeah,
because I never got my name listed on the credits because I wasn't supposed to be that guy. I was just that guy.
But I don't even want you to answer this now, because we do have to go to a quick break, but I want to ask you when you come back, because I think this, in terms of somewhat of what your organization is, a story filmmakers club. I see it as, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong when we come back, but I see it as a networking group, a community. I see it almost as like, and I think you may have said this, or did I make this up, but like a chamber of commerce in this world. Yeah. Right.
That's an excellent way to identify it from a business perspective, because the similarities and the common ground, it's identical.
Yeah. So when we come back, I want to ask you then, how do you leverage being on that poster from that movie from 16? Don't answer me now. We got to keep them on the edge, man. We're going to take a break. But how do we do that? How do you leverage that? Because gang, it's all about relationships. As great as your boy, the nonprofit sector connector is, I'm only as good as my social capital. I'm only as good as the relationships I've created and nurtured and continue to develop. And that's what it is. And that's why this show for me is an awesome opportunity. Back to what I said at the beginning of the show with P.T. Barnum and publicity. It's about getting out there. It's about getting the connections, the relationships, and telling the stories. So I think, that's what it's about, being a storyteller. And we'll talk more about that. And this story, I'm going to grab that envelope, Phil, when we take a break here, because I want to show you the envelope that I sent and came back on September 11th. We'll be right back. And we'll talk about Fireland. The show is called Philanthropy and Focus. He's Cap. I'm Tommy D, a story of filmmakers club, Philanthropy and Focus. That sounds like Willy Wonka. Right back.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Hunger Games, that's a character. That's the guy. He was the game show host, and he was, he was so dramatic and over the top. And maybe that's me. Maybe I am dramatic and over the top, but it's for a good cause, everybody. Yo, Phil, check this out. This is this envelope. I'm just going to show you right here, everybody. There it says there that this was returned to sender, and it was returned back to sender on September 10th. 2001. So it's the strangest thing. It's still in the envelope. I've never opened it. It's a headshot that I had sent in to some company called Hard Knock Films 22 years ago, and was returned back to me. I don't know if the address was wrong. I don't know if we all know the world just changed that next day, and the world was a different place. And maybe the mail, it ended up back at my house months later, and I was like, that's interesting. I want to keep it. And it's something you reminded me about, which brings me to what I want to ask you about. I want to talk about the organization, but it makes me think September 11th, 2001. I got to tell you something, man. When I saw you a week and a half ago, you texted me the podcast Fireland, right? And I listened to the first 10 minutes and I shut it off. And it's not because it's not well done, because it is. It's because it brought up so much for me. My uncle Joe Graziano, city fireman, was the only guy to make it out of his firehouse. He left the rest of the guys there. I shouldn't say he left them. He was the only one to survive. He certainly didn't leave anybody anywhere. And I worked in his bar, a place called Halligan's, and it was a Tuesday, as we all know, and I worked Tuesday night. So I went to the bar, and I opened the bar at I took on my shift at 7 p.m. and we still didn't know where my Uncle Joe was. And we didn't find out till midnight that Uncle Joe was still alive. And I want to go into the stuff about the organization, but I'd love for you to just talk about that piece, because it's the work. It's one of the works that you guys have done. I'm telling you, this morning I was driving my kids to school. I was like, you know what, man, before we get on the show with Phil, talking to myself, saying, I really need to listen to the other 50 so minutes of that podcast. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it right now, because I want to be in the space to do that, because it brings up so many different memories for so many of us. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about Fireland?
Absolutely. Sure. So it actually kind of like 2016 for me was such a payoff year. Like between good time, getting engaged, getting married, coming back from my honeymoon, befriending a doctor in the United Kingdom. That year for me was just what a payoff after just ever, just a life of just like like foundational, go through trials and tribulations, spiritual stuff. 2016 was the best year of my life. So during that year, right before I went on my honeymoon, me and my friend Adam Bronstein, we reconnected on a Nike shoot because they were preparing for an Olympic commercial, and I'm like, all right, more background work, not a problem. So he and I were really really talking about, like, is this our life? Is this our career? What could we do to sort of like just make our own stuff? It's not unheard of that, actors who did become a Hollywood superstar, they wrote their own and they went through similar things that we have. So when we spoke, we're on set of the Nike commercial in Brooklyn. I told him that I would love to do a story about firefighters. I like that. It never went away for years. I did not have the opportunity to become a firefighter. The test was not available when I graduated high school. Instead, I went to college, and by the time the test was actually reactivated, I was so like immersed into this, where my heart was not in that anymore like it used to be. It was more creative.
Let me ask you though, before you do that, what was your connection to the FD? What was that connection?
My dad. Yeah, my dad is a first responder, Brooklyn native. We all are. Shout out to Engine 309. That was his firehouse, the Friendly Firehouse on Flatbush Avenue. And in 2001, he had just transferred prior to 9/11 to 81 Engine in the Bronx. I think that's right off the Major Deegan exit 5. Shout out, guys. So what ended up happening was in 2016, Adam suggested the title Fireland, and it just never went away. And I go on my honeymoon. I come back. I do good time. All of a sudden, things are falling into place. And then, of course, I'm a married man now, so I get my ass to work. So I'm doing delivery for a medical organization, dropping off dialysis and stuff, just as a truck driver. But my dad worked with Chris Edwards, firefighter Chris Edwards at Engine 81. And that year he released his book called Coming Through the Flames. And he had given a copy to my parents, autograph signed. And so I read the book twice in one day. And then I reached out to Chris Edwards saying, can I please turn this into a movie or something? And ever since then, yeah, he gave me his blessing. He gave me his permission. We've been working on it together for the most part for the last 7 years. And the book was way too detailed to be a 90-minute film. It's not going to work. And it shouldn't. And now, as more time goes by, when there's a lot of FDNY issues that we could really talk about through the medium of television, we could really tell an authentic story right from the book, right from the horse's mouth of the entire FDNY community, and create an episodic. So Fireland is now the name of the series, and Hell's Gate is now episode 1. And that's what we wrote for the podcast play, just to kind of build a fan base and showcase that the story is on its way. It's available. Trying to get, just try to get it the right ears to listen to actually.
How do we, let's talk about that, because this is the publicity side of things, right? So this is the work that you're doing. How do they get to that? How do they listen to it? How do they plug into it? When can we expect more episodes of this whole thing?
I would love, like, if it were possible for me to write the entire thing as a podcast series, I would, but this was always intended to actually be put on film.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have everything for the first season already mapped out based on the book, every single bullet point. The dialogue for the most part is easy peasy now that we know who all the fundamental characters are. So that is definitely on its way. But for the pilot, now that we have the podcast play, we wanted to showcase the pilot episode so they don't actually have to read the script, listen to the story. If you like what you hear, we'll just move forward with episode 2. And we got 10 episodes in the chamber, and the whole thing takes place during the 1990s leading up to 9/11. And there is room for more seasons if we want to continue past 9/11, if we want to talk about 9/11 itself for a full season. There's a lot of potential on what type of story do we want to tell about the fire department and what was actually lost.
Yeah, many of my friends are firemen, guys I grew up with, many family members. I have some cousins that are a cousin who's very high ranking FDNY guy. I mentioned my Uncle Joe. And I will tell you, just to kind of take a break for a second from what this is, I remember my Uncle Joe told me when I was working in the bar, Tommy D, take the test, go to the FD. It's an incredible job. You want to do this. That was back in, I graduated high school in 1996. And you know what I said? I said to him, Phil, I said, I see a building on fire, Uncle Joe. I don't see me running into it. These guys and gals are absolute heroes. And, I think I've had some people on the show talk about, certainly that day on, and we said, never forget. And I think, we forgot in a lot of ways, and we need to remember, Phil, we right.
For me, it's been a spiritual struggle because I'm like, I had the ability. I knew I wanted to be a firefighter while I was a kid, while I was in middle school, while I was in high school, even parts of college. I always knew that I was going to. It was just a matter of time. And it's always been a spiritual battle for me because I regret not doing it. Yeah. And it always seemed like, then what is my point? What is my purpose? And then there was like, I don't remember that captain from 300, but there was one guy, the one guy with the one eye, who was literally, yes, you have the ability to stay here and fight and die for your country, but we also need to preserve what we've done and tell the story. And not to say like I'm the messenger to actually be the one to tell that story, but I do know as a generation, so that we do not forget, a lot of us need to step up and do something to the lengths of what I am doing. Yeah. So to ensure the long term that we will always remember to never forget.
Yeah. So well said. And that's maybe your journey, kid. That's your responsibility. Maybe, you know what? And that's how you're to serve. Maybe is that maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Cause I think in terms of what I do here with this program, and, sometimes I thought it was, it was just a show. It was just a thing I was doing. And, but really I think it's a journey. It makes an impact. And if I'm not on the front lines for nonprofit organizations all the time, I don't lead a nonprofit organization, but what this program has become for me is my opportunity to shine a light on what nonprofits are doing. So maybe, Cap, that's your thing, is like, this is for you. I'm emotional right now. Maybe that's it, man. This is, somebody has to tell the story. There has to be the bard, right? There has to be someone to do that.
Well, it was my biggest my biggest bullshit card when I would say things like this to myself, when I meditate and I pray and I just kind of think like, what a crock of shit. That is such nonsense. Why, what, me? Fuck that. That is nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if I actually do suck? What if the story just isn't any good? And I do not have that talent, and everything I've done in this artistic field as an actor or whatever, what if it was all just pure damn luck and it was all just vanity, and I'm nowhere near as talented or as gifted or as called to do this? And I just, now, after getting the feedback of the show itself on telling this story in this way responsibly as I did, I haven't gotten bad feedback yet, and if that is my gift, if that is my path, if that is my purpose, then okay, I'm just going to be patient with this process, because now I'm putting in groundwork for more things long-term sustainably in a completely different way than I ever expected this to go. I when I first started doing this, I only went to college because I got hurt as a construction worker and I had nothing else to do other than go to college, get your insurance, and take an elective. And now I run a nonprofit. I'm like, for what? And so there's a lot of things for me, like spiritually, because I never thought this was where it was going to end up.
Yeah.
I thought just read the scripts, be in a TV show, have a career, be a dad, be a provider, be a regular guy. Nope, not even close.
Well, listen, gang, think about that. Whether you say God or you say the universe, I'm big on the universe and the universal consciousness and the quantum field and all these things. And that's where when I meditate, I believe it's all there. And sometimes I think that there's this greater plan for us. Again, some people call it God. I'm not religious, was raised Roman Catholic, not anymore. I am similar to you, meditation and connecting. And I dig nature more than I ever did, and just trying to continue searching, gang. We got to take a break, talk about searching. We got to search for a time to take a break, but continue to be a searcher. Phil, I am so glad I ran into you a week and a half ago, because this conversation doesn't happen. And like I say, there's something greater that's putting all these things together. And I believe that you're on the path, kid. And I appreciate you. When we come back, we're going to take one last break, and then we got to bring the show to a close. There's so much here. It just means we got to have you back on again. Potentially, I think what we'll do is I'll have a film crew where we come out and I hang out with Astoria Filmmakers Club for like a day, and we make a TV show out of that. We'll talk about that, because that's Tommy D on the road. We are going to take a quick break. When I come back, tell us about how people plug into the organization. Tell us what the organization needs. Tell us how we can help. And I know, as you just said, as a nonprofit leader, and that maybe wasn't what you thought your path was going to be. Well, as the nonprofit sector connector, I can bring you relationships and resources and people that can help you continue to be successful on this path. We'll be right back. Philanthropy and Focus, final segment. Right back.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Are back, and I promise you on this show, sometimes we're going to get emotional, because guess what? We're real people dealing with real things. And I like to say, no big deal, just changing the world. And that's what we're doing here, gang. That's what you have the opportunity to do, man. It was something I was listening to this morning, Phil. I'll send it over to you. It was this manifestation thing. I fell asleep listening to it. I woke up listening to it. And it was about, I didn't know I'd be bringing this up. There's miracles around every corner. You don't know, gang. You don't know what the opportunity right there beside you. I mean, peripherals wide, right? Be open to what's out there. Be open to this, be open to the opportunities and be there for each other. Phil, let's talk about the organization. How can people plug in? How can they get involved? What do you need? That sort of stuff.
How do you plug in? It all started on Facebook. We got a private group called the Astoria Filmmakers Club. We got over 900 members on Facebook. That's the best way to begin. Instagram, we're available. You can always reach out to me directly. I could redirect your path. What else? A story of filmmakers.org. We got very lucky when we partnered with Flip Cause last year. They heard about me. They wanted to know more. Next thing you know, we're with a pretty good nonprofit connecting organizations such as Flip Cause. Shout out and thank you to them. What's it all coming to? What is it? I guess, you know what, like everybody has a story to tell. We are like built to be the fiscal sponsor of any project in the independent film or outside the independent film market, where we could solicit donations and we could provide a build your own grant directly towards that project. And we created the Triborough Film Festival to actually showcase the work of all of our a Story of Filmmakers Club members. It's also a showcase where if it's a story based in New York, about New York, or by creatives that were born, raised, or currently living in New York, then it's about all the boroughs. That's the best place to actually be a part of something a little bit more fun and competitive. And we are working on something that I really want to do, where the ultimate goal is to actually get the masses, the majority of people to actually watch your movie. So the best way to actually maybe do that, if you can't get it picked up by a network or a streaming platform or something like that, all right, we'll just create our own streaming platform. So it's not that complicated. It's not that easy, but we came this far, just go all the way. So came up with the AFC TV Plus, AFC Plus, where it's literally a Story of Filmmakers Club, TV plus more. That could be available for free, similar to Tubi, and we could create original content based on all of those subscribers, have that filter come back in for originals for the filmmakers we brought together, and just create more.
I'm only super interested in everything you just said, like, especially because I'm like, wow, well, there goes the series I want to create. Like, I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, I guess I got to just do this and post it on YouTube and all this stuff. But I guess I don't. I guess there's something there, man. Like, we're not going to do this now, but to just say to you, I plan on going out and spending days with nonprofits and recording the whole thing and then turning it into a series. So I don't know how to do that, but I know that you have 900 people in your organization. And I know a bunch of these young bucks, young cats in college that are doing this. And it's, in that song I started talking about Courage to Grow by Revolution, I thought, you're 45 and it's talking about, you're kind of figuring it out. We're all still figuring it out, gang. Until you're not here anymore, you have the opportunity. Shout out to Gary Vaynerchuk. We never met, but Gary V is all about that, man. I got 50 years of life left in me, man. I got a lot to do. And maybe I wasn't doing films and creating things before. I'm just saying me, but I mean you all too. Just because, please don't say I'm too old. Please don't say I coulda, shoulda, woulda, man. Just freaking try the thing, right, Phil? I mean, come on. Like you said, had you not gotten injured, maybe you'd be an iron worker, right? But this is a change.
Huge. Like, no, I didn't have a plan for my life. Not really. I just thought, keep it simple. Just work, eat, sleep, repeat. Live your life, be a dad, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say that's not what you're doing, because it's hashtag no big deal. You're just changing the world. You really, truly are changing the world. I want to share the website. Can I show this? Filmfreeway.com. Can I just share that where you can see the Triborough Film Festival? Is that cool? I'll share. Yeah. So when is the film festival?
Scheduled for January 27th, coming up in 2024. And we're probably going to have our award ceremony approximately February 10th. We did it at the Cayenne Federation building on a story of Broadway and 44th Street. And we also did Zucker Theater for the premiere.
Love it. Look, man, I want to be part of that. I want to be there. I want to be in the room. I want to support it in whatever ways I can through my network, through my relationships, man. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your connection. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned a couple of times how spiritual you are. To be honest, let's be real. Guys don't always say that kind of stuff, man. Guys don't always talk this way. We need to, and to be leaders, I think it's important to be fully rounded and connected to different things. So how can you need funding? Do you need board members? Like what else are you looking for right now?
Definitely funding. Now we actually broke in the shirt a little bit. We have an established foundation, corporate sponsorship for our budget for the whole year. We're very similar to a chamber of commerce, so we'll be doing free mixers every single month throughout the duration of spring all the way to autumn. Winter is kind of tough. People are just kind of doing their own thing. So we just keep it online. For the film festival, all the events, what else? Donations, any campaign that we're promoting for a film, people want to actually see that movie, they could donate directly through our website for that campaign of that film, and the filmmakers would get that grant money through us. And more people just to collaborate with, like many hands make light work. We're looking for people.
Right on. So do you get involved with these young people that are in school as they're coming out of school? Is that part? Because I would think it's a great pipeline to help support these young filmmakers.
In the beginning, honestly, up until now, it's really just been word of mouth.
Yeah.
As of late, we've like community board members and leaders, people in government, like Borough Hall, for example. Now that they're hearing about us a little bit more and what we could potentially do, we have the resources and the ability to be a big brother, big sister type of organization where you actually have a mentor and mentorship experience of actually working in the industry, because you do not necessarily need to put yourself into debt and go to college to learn this necessarily. There's a lot of things that we could do sort of as a ministry for the industry to substitute that, where it's not going to put you into like a $50,000 debt after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Now that's game changing. I can't believe I got to stop you right there, because we're out of time. But that's a game changing mentality, right? They can get you the training, they get you the connections, the relationships through this organization. So I've told you before, gang, not everybody belongs in college, but that's a whole nother day. That's a whole nother discussion. Check out NYCImagineAwards.com. I want you to know that. I got to go in a second here because Steve Fry's show is coming up, the SMB guy. But October 17th, which is just a couple weeks, the New York City Imagine Awards will be at Gustavino's. I don't know, Phil, if you're around, if you can attend, I think you should come with me that night. It's going to be a great night. Maybe some people from your organization. I'll share that with you through text later on. Phil, thank you so much for being here, man. Thanks. This is just the beginning of our relationship, brother. Appreciate you, man. Make it a great day, everybody. Thanks for checking in. And listen, go connect with your nonprofits. Do me a favor. Just make the world a better place. I'll see you later. Bye.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.